The steady murmur of flight announcements hummed through the crowded halls of Halcyon International Airport. Wheels rolled over polished stone, footsteps echoed in bursts of urgency, and voices blended in the familiar chaos of travel. No one paid much attention to the slim woman weaving through the crowd, her stride calm, precise, like every minute counted. Her name was Mara Jensen. Dressed in soft grey slacks and a faded trench coat, she looked like any traveller, maybe a little tired, maybe a little too composed. Near Security Checkpoint C, a large German shepherd moved in tandem with its uniformed handler. The dog's vest read Airport Security K9. It passed dozens of passengers, sniffing each briefly before moving on. But when it reached Mara, something changed. The dog stopped, its ears flicked up, body locked. A low, unfamiliar growl started in its chest. Mara froze. The dog blocked her path, pressing against her legs like a living barrier. Around her, people began to pause. Curious glances turned into stares. Security personnel approached. Tension crackled in the air like static, and in that moment, the world stopped watching the departure board and turned to her. Passengers slowed, unsure whether to move forward. One even started recording on their phone. Mara shifted her weight, glancing at the dog with a forced smile. Mara, it's probably my lunch or meds. I can open the bag if you want. But the dog didn't move. Its body was tight with focus. Its handler, Officer Nate Perez, gave a subtle signal. Two other officers approached. Officer Perez, "Ma'am, please step to the side." Mara hesitated. Her throat was dry. Her eyes scanned the terminal. Exit signs, gates, people watching. She finally nodded and moved toward the nearby inspection bench, the K9 now firmly planted at her heels. The small roller bag was unzipped. On top, clothes, basic toiletries, a paperback novel. Nothing unusual. But then came a small box, heavier than expected, wrapped tightly in grey tape. No labels. Officer Perez raised an eyebrow. "Officer Perez, what's this?" Mara. "Just a toy, my sister's. She likes to sleep with it when she's sick." They peeled away the tape. Inside lay a plush tiger, its fabric frayed at the ears. Faded stitching ran along the seams. The officers moved it aside. The dog whined, then stepped forward, nose pointed directly at the toy. Its tail stiffened. Perez picked it up again, squeezed the belly. Something inside shifted. A blade slid down the toy's back. Perez sliced through the stitching. Inside, cushioned tightly between soft stuffing, was a silver canister, about the size of a soda can. Perez held it in both hands. No markings, no weight distribution. It didn't rattle. Officer Perez. "Hazmat needs to see this." By now, murmurs had spread through the terminal. Rumors sparked. Drugs, weapons, something dangerous. Mara's breath became ragged. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "Mara, it's not what you think. Please, it's not dangerous." She was escorted to a side room, visibly shaking. INTI, Airport Security Room. Moments later, Mara sat between two officers. Her hands trembled as she clutched the now empty plush tiger. The silver canister rested in a biohazard containment tray across the room. Officer Perez stepped outside to speak with his supervisor, Marla Rowe, the head of airport security. Marla Rowe. "What's your take, Officer Perez? Instincts say she's hiding something, but I don't think it's a bomb." Marla peered through the glass window at Mara. Marla Rowe. "Let's find out." The hazmat team arrived within minutes, suited and calm. They used a sterilized mobile lab to scan the container. No explosives, no radioactive material. But something inside was biologically reactive. They opened it in stages, preserving its environment. Inside, a small vial, transparent, filled with an amber fluid. Medical tape sealed the cap. A sticker in a foreign language covered one side. Alongside it, folded papers in another language, dozens. Stamped, signed, Hazmat Tech, definitely biological, possibly stem cell material. Marla turned sharply. Marla Rowe. "Stem cells." Back inside the room, Mara sat, frozen. "Officer Perez, OS. Ma'am, we need you to explain exactly what's in that vial. Her head dropped. For the first time, tears fell freely. Mara, my sister Ivy, she's dying. It's a rare condition. This treatment, it's experimental. The clinic said they couldn't ship it. We couldn't afford the cold chain process. They told me I'd need to hand deliver it. It has to stay sealed, unshaken, and it has to arrive in the next few hours. The room was silent. Mara, con to D. I was afraid they'd confiscate it, or delay it. I had no choice. I thought if I hid it well enough. Her voice collapsed into sobs. Officer Perez, you know what you did was illegal. She nodded, unable to speak. Perez walked out, conflicted. In T Security Operations Office. Later, Marla stood with airport administrators, legal advisors, and a representative from the Federal Transport Authority. Legal REP. She smuggled unauthorized biological material. Minimum charges include customs violation, public safety breach, and misrepresentation. Marla. But if she's telling the truth, this was a last-ditch medical attempt to save someone. Legal rep. Intentions don't clear law, but context could shape consequences. An officer entered with the medical documents fully translated. Officer. Her story checks out. The clinic exists. The stem cells are legitimate. Treatment window is within 12 hours. A silence passed. Marla. And the canister's coolant levels? Hazmat tech. Failing fast. They'll degrade in 3 hours, 4 tops. Into holding room, Mara and Perez. Mara was pale, eyes hollow. Mara. She's supposed to get the injection tonight. I was going to meet the hospital courier in Fairview. They're waiting for me, please, if I don't get there in time. Officer Perez looked at his watch, then at the K9, then back at her. Officer Perez. I think I have an idea. Int Airport Medical Bay. Moments later, a volunteer paramedic, Rowan Ellis, happened to be on standby. Rowan, I've got a portable cooler in my gear bag, high-grade insulation, temperature controlled. If we transfer it now, I can keep it viable for another 8 to 10 hours. Marla stepped in. Marla, transfer it now. They did, under hazmat supervision. Marla, con TD. She's still under detainment, but she flies on the next plane, with Officer Perez and the K9 escorting her. XT night flight departure. Boarding. The tarmac glistened under soft rain. Mara boarded between Perez and the alert K9. Phones flashed, bystanders whispered. Some said criminal, others said hero.
Rain streaked across the windows of Gate 37. A plane was prepped for late boarding, engines humming with restrained power. Inside, lights dimmed. The atmosphere was tense. Not just because of the weather, but because of what was about to board. Int. Gate 37 boarding bridge. Moments later, Mara stepped forward, flanked by Officer Perez and Echo, the German Shepherd K9. Her hands clutched the old plush tiger now emptied of its contents. Behind her, a technician carefully carried the temperature-regulated cooler containing the stem cells, now sealed inside Liam's field pack. Every step felt surreal. This wasn't how she pictured it, this frantic mission to save her sister's life. As they crossed into the aircraft cabin, the eyes of seated passengers tracked her movement. Some murmured quietly. Some recognized the dog from earlier in the terminal. Others whispered, "Is that the woman with the bomb?" Misunderstanding lingering in the air. Int. Aircraft cabin, night flight. Mara, Perez, and Echo were seated in the front row. The cooler was secured beneath her seat, locked and insulated. A flight attendant leaned over discreetly. "Flight attendant. The captain's aware. We'll try to make up time in the air, but there's turbulence ahead. Might be a rough ride." Mara gave a silent nod. "Mara, please, just get us there." She checked her phone. No signal yet. No new texts. No update from the hospital. Echo sat quietly, head resting on Perez's boot. The dog's eyes scanned the cabin with calm vigilance. Mara reached down, brushing her fingers against Echo's thick fur. The dog looked up at her. Just for a moment, she smiled faintly. Int. Airplane. 35 minutes into flight, the plane jolted. Oxygen masks wobbled in their compartments. A low rumble echoed through the fuselage. Pilot, VO, ladies and gentlemen, we've entered an area of heavy turbulence. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. The cooler slid slightly despite its straps. Mara gripped it instinctively. Perez placed a hand over hers to steady it. Officer Perez, it's secure. She nodded, jaw tight. Her leg bounced with nerves. Then, her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. In GT. Ivy's heart rate dropped. Doctors say not to wait. Hurry. Tears welled in her eyes. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Perez looked at the screen. He didn't say anything, but he didn't need to. Int. Plane 15 minutes to landing. The cabin was dimmed. Outside, flashes of lightning lit up clouds like camera flashes. The plane dipped suddenly, evoking gasps. Perez radioed ahead. Officer Perez. We need priority disembark. Patient in critical condition. Package time sensitive. Are medics on standby? Ground control, VO, copy that. Escort will be ready at gate 9. Mara barely breathed. Ext. Landing strip. Night. The aircraft screeched against the wet tarmac, finally slowing to a crawl. Airport vehicles blinked their hazard lights near the jet bridge. Int. Airport. Arrival terminal doors opened. Perez, Echo, and Mara were ushered out first. A local officer met them with a clipboard and a stern face. Local officer, where's the documentation? Perez, transmitted from Halcyon. Confirmed medical urgency, we don't have time for red tape. Local officer, there's a protocol. Perez, there's a dying girl. Just as the argument escalated, the glass doors to the terminal swung open. Liam Rourke rushed in, panting. Behind him, a battered ambulance blinked in the rain. Liam, the hospital's courier got stuck in traffic. We brought backup. He held up a laminated form. Field transfer authorization. Signed. Legal. The officer scanned it. Nodded. Local officer, you've got 5 minutes, go. Int. Ambulance. En route to Fairview Medical. Perez rode in back with Mara and Echo. Liam drove. His partner navigated. The siren wailed, weaving between halted cars and flooded intersections. Mara held the cooler in her lap. Her other hand clutched the Tiger again, the empty shell now just a symbol. She whispered into the soft fabric. Mara. Hold on, Ivy. Please. Just hold on. Int. Fairview Medical, Emergency Bay. Later doctors stood waiting at the ambulance bay doors with a cryogenic cart. The back doors swung open. The stem cells were handed off within seconds. A doctor in green scrubs looked up at Mara. Doctor, you did it. She's still stable. We'll take it from here. Mara nearly collapsed. Perez caught her by the shoulders. She sobbed once, then again. Echo whined softly, pressing his nose into her leg. Int. Hospital waiting room. Hours later, Mara sat in a plastic chair, Tiger in her arms. Her eyes were red. She hadn't spoken in over an hour. Perez sat nearby. Echo lay at his feet, tail occasionally twitching. Liam returned with coffee. One for each of them. He didn't say much, just sat. The hallway monitor chimed softly. A doctor emerged at last. Doctor, the stem cells took. Her vitals are improving. She's stable. You made it just in time. Mara broke into sobs, shaking. Perez's eyes misted. He looked down at Echo, rubbing behind the dog's ears. Officer Perez, you really are something, partner. Int. Hospital ICU. 2 days later, soft morning light filtered through the blinds of the intensive care unit. Machines beeped softly. Ivy Jensen, pale and resting, lay connected to IVs and monitors. But there was color in her cheeks now. Her breathing no longer strained. Mara stood at the window, the plush Tiger pressed to her chest. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours since arriving. A nurse entered quietly. Nurse, she's awake. Just a little. You can go in. Mara nodded, her knees trembling as she stepped into the room. Ivy turned her head ever so slightly. Ivy, horse, took you long enough. Mara let out a broken laugh, rushing to her sister's side. Int. Hospital corridor. Later that day, Officer Perez and Echo waited by the ICU door. The dog sat attentively, tail tapping against the floor. A few nurses had come by to pet him or offer a treat. He accepted neither. His eyes stayed on the door. When Mara stepped out, she was different. Lighter. Smiling through her exhaustion. Mara, she's going to make it. Perez smiled faintly. Echo wagged his tail for the first time in hours. Int. Airport office, Halcyon International. A week later Marla Rowe reviewed a stack of papers. Her brows knit together. The case had made waves, on the news, online, in legal circles. Hashtags like hashtag mercy for Mara and hashtag let her go trended for days. She lifted the final form. A recommendation from Officer Perez. In GT. Mara Jensen knowingly broke customs protocol, but her motivation was rooted in desperation and love, in my judgment. This was not an act of defiance, but one of duty, to family, not law. Marla sighed. She picked up the phone. Int. Courthouse. 3 weeks later Mara stood before the judge. Her public defender rested a hand on her shoulder. The courtroom wasn't packed, but there were a few reporters in the back. Ivy sat in the front row, recovering but strong enough to attend. Perez sat beside her in uniform. Echo lay at his feet, ears perked. Judge. Ms. Jensen. You committed a serious offense. Unauthorized transport of restricted medical material, concealing biohazardous content, and evading screening protocols. Mara nodded, head lowered. Judge Conted, however, this court also recognizes that your actions were not malicious or criminal in intent. Given the verified emergency, the successful recovery of the patient, and the testimony provided by federal officers and medical authorities, I am inclined to issue the following. The room held its breath. Judge Conted, you will complete 180 hours of community service, specifically in medical courier outreach programs. Your record will show a suspended violation, contingent on no future infractions. A hush followed. Mara's hands clutched each other tightly. Then she smiled, relief washing over her. The gavel dropped. Judge, case closed. Int. Airport K9 Unit, CEREMONY. A month later a small crowd had gathered. Cameras clicked. Reporters stood at the edges. Officer Nate Perez stood beside Echo, now in a fresh vest embroidered with gold letters. In GT. Echo. Lifesaver. Marla Rowe approached the podium. Marla, there are moments when instinct matters more than machines. And in this case, one dog's loyalty and discipline not only protected an airport, but helped save a life. Mara stepped up to the stage, holding a small plaque and a framed photo of Ivy and Echo. Mara, you stopped me when I thought the world wouldn't care. But somehow, that stop became a start. She crouched down, wrapped her arms around Echo, and whispered. Mara, softly, thank you, hero. Echo wagged his tail proudly. Montage. Over inspirational music. Mara helping train volunteers at a medical courier nonprofit. Ivy walking slowly across a rehab room, holding Mara's hand. Officer Perez giving a talk to high school students on integrity and compassion. Echo sitting proudly next to a new K9 recruit. A shot of the plush tiger now sitting on a hospital shelf labeled, Hope. Final scene. Sunset outside hospital. Ivy sat on a bench in the garden, a scarf around her head, cheeks full of color. Mara joined her, handing over a cup of tea. Echo lay at their feet, peacefully watching the butterflies nearby. Ivy, why? Think the dog misses chasing down criminals? Mara, I think he found something better. The sisters smiled. The camera panned upward, catching the last golden rays of sunlight. Sometimes, heroes don't carry badges. They wear fur. Sometimes, the greatest journeys begin with a single no from someone who sees what the world doesn't. A life. A bond. A second chance.